Well, here's another video on my progress with the MGB. I've kind of been jumping around doing a little bit of everything the last few weeks, but I wanted to get this out to you, show you what I've been doing. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching. I wanted to show you what I'm doing on these wheel wells. I didn't get much video while I did the left side, so this is the right side rear quarter panel. All I've done so far is I've done a rough cut around here, just so I can get it in the ballpark of where just makes it easier for me to work in here. I still have to take a little bit more off, probably about another ½ inch or an inch around here, all the way around. On the inside here, I kind of trying to duplicate what I did on the other side. I have to trim this off because I need flat surfaces here to attach the new steel coming out to the fender. There's a repair I have to do up here. These aren't rust holes up here, they were actually welds. There was well, believe it or not, there was a rear seat, a tiny rear seat in these GTs, and there was a bracket on here. Well, this bracket that they had spot welded on was a thicker material than this wheel well, so when I went to take it off, it was a pain. So I'm gonna have to make a patch panel like I did on the other side, and then from the inside I'll probably fill it with lead or filler or something to seal that off. And I've got them just like on the other side. I have a little bit of a rust repair I need to do here. The rest of the wheel well looks pretty good, and then I have to do some trimming here and here. But I wanted to show you this before I get too much further, before I do the final trim and do the final cuts on all of this. I finished welding up the right wheel well. This one came out a lot better, I think, than the left side, probably because I learned a lot from doing the other side. What I mainly did different on this one, I made the cutout, the opening, smaller. So I made a series of cuts every inch, inch and a half, then bent it back so this would come straight out. It came out pretty nice. I'm real happy with this. This was a rust repair here. I cut out a piece of rust, and up here were there was a bracket that got ripped off, and I replaced that. But yeah, this side came out real nice. Much better. With the fender on there, there's about, it varies anywhere from a ½ inch to an inch gap to the outside of the fender. So, and then the fender actually comes out, quite a bit more here. So it'll have a lot of tire clearance here in the back. I finished up the metal work on the wheel wells. I'm not going to be mounting the fenders quite yet because I still have some welding to do around on the car, and I just don't want to get sparks and stuff on the fiberglass. The rear shelf behind the seats had these bumps in the floor, one on each side. There, one on each side. Over there and over here. I didn't need those, or those did not need to be there anymore. They were for the damper, rear shock arms for clearance to the floor. I'm not using the MG shocks. I'm using tube shocks on the back. It's completely different. So I was able to cut those out. The benefit from that also, the charger unit and the DC-DC converter and possibly the contactor box I can mount on this rear shelf and then build an enclosure around it. And that also gave me quite a bit more of flat space there on the floor with these removed. The wheel wells came out really nice. There you can kind of see them. They are a pretty nice fit around here. Let me get a little light. They're pretty close at the top, but there's not too much of a gap all the way around, so they'll just be a small, maybe 2-inch wide, anywhere from 1 inch to 2-inch wide fiberglass ring that I put around there to attach the. There'll be fiberglass to the fender and then bonded to the metal. Anyway, those are done. I removed those bumps that were on the inside, and I needed a mounting location for the coil springs. So I made these 1/4-inch steel plates and welded this all in. This is what it looks like without the spring and shock mounted, and also the bump stop over here. The stock MG had these mounting plates here that held the rubber bumpers. They didn't quite match up. They were missing the hub here on the suspension arm. They were just catching the edge. So what I did was I removed those and made a new mounting point, and I'm using some rubber bumpers. I was able to mount further out. So when the arm comes up, when the suspension arm comes up, it'll have a bump stop here to prevent it from going any further. The shocks, the lower shock mount is the stock BMW mount location. The upper, I ran a large bolt through and reinforced it. That'll hold the top in place. This will clear the axle shaft and CV joint, which is here. Everything clears nicely, and the left side motor mount, the Tesla motor mount, actually comes over and down, so I have nice clearance all around. There was a metal flange sticking out here, and I went ahead and was able to trim that off. I didn't really need that anymore. Springs. The springs are adjustable springs. They're designed to be used on, I think they originally designed them for drift cars or whatever, so you could adjust the rear suspension and lower it down. I think what they were trying to do when it's at this setting here, well, that's the low setting. What's nice about this, I'll be able to adjust the ride height here on the back. I will have a little more weight than the stock BMW, the Z3, but with this I'll be able to adjust that out. Anyway, that's where we are at. Another thing I wanted to show, the center pin for the rear spring mount. I had to cut it and move it over slightly and back slightly so it would line up with the upper mount. I needed the clearance for this frame rail up here, so I had to move that over. It worked out pretty good. As you can see on this side, I need to trim the rubber off a little bit right here, but it worked okay. I wanted to show you the equipment box that I made that goes in behind the seats on the rear shelf. What I wanted to show you was these are the top plates for the spring mounts on both sides, the left side and right side. I wanted to brace this up. I didn't feel that this floor pan was strong enough to support the weight of these springs. So I put a 1x2 cross member across, a tube across from the frame rail on the left side to the right side, welded that in, and then I put some strengthening plates from that down to the top of the spring mount. The spring is actually centered right about in this area here, so that should give that plenty of support. I made this enclosure up here. I didn't really want to, but I needed a space to put the battery charger, the DC to DC converter, and also the control box up in this area. That's why this looks a little large. I was going to put panels on it, it'll be carpeted and upholstered. and I wanted to try to leave the back shelf totally flat, which I think I can do. That's not going to be an issue. The problem I got thinking, which could be a dangerous thing, but in the back, this is the battery box for the rear, the foam mock-up that I made. It was going to sit right up against this rail back here in the back. There's not really any protection. If this car gets rear-ended, these batteries are going to get crushed and could probably catch on fire. And lithium batteries, once they catch on fire, I hear they're extremely difficult to get out. So what I'm going to do is I put the mock-up batteries that I made out of foam board. They'll fit in this compartment up here. I can put 8 of the batteries up here instead of in the back. I am going to put a lid on here. I'll make a lid out of this aluminum angle and then cover it. It'll be all upholstered and everything, but that's a much safer place. It's in a secure area where they're less likely to get crushed or damaged if there is an accident. What I'm going to do then is in the back, it'll be a smaller compartment. It'll actually be this size here. This will be the bottom of it, and then the front, and I'll come all the way up to this flat part here. So that will seal this all off from there back. So it's not really going to be a trunk space, but it will be where I'm going to put the charger unit, the contactor box, and the DC-DC converter here on the back. I just think it's a much safer way of doing it. When I started to do this, I realized that before I actually construct this box or finish it, I really need to get this rear valance on. So what I've done is I've fiberglassed some bolts on the rear valance on the inside, and then bolted this on to where it's going to go and line things up. So I want to actually get this glued on and bolted in permanently before I finish this box. It's much easier to do. I can get to everything a lot easier. Yeah, my plan with this box, equipment box in the back, the rear, I'll have another angle iron going across there, basically an 1-inch angle iron framework. The back will be steel on both sides that I have clecoed on here are steel, but I'll do the bottom panel and the front panel all the way up to the top up here, the access. I'll do that in aluminum. This cardboard is a outline pattern of the roll bar I want to get bent to put in the car. So as long as the roll bar fits inside the boundaries of this cardboard pattern, it should fit quite nicely. I'll be mounting the base of the tubes right on the other side here on both sides, and yeah, right in this area here on both sides. And so it'll come up here, and then with an angled brace coming up here to it, quite similar to what I did on the Mini over here. 1 3/4 roll bar. Real briefly, this is where I'm going to put the charging port for the charger. There's a large racing style aluminum gas cap going on here, and the inside's been removed out of it, and the plug will be on the inside of that. I've kind of just started working on that, but anyway, that's where that's going to go. I think the original Sebring cars had their filler cap up in this area, in the same area. Well, that's all for part 7. I think it's time to go for a ride. Nice day out. See you later. Thanks for watching.